You're tuned in to the Daily BS.
Do you believe it?
Sports and culture combined into one.
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
Are you kidding me? He did what?
The Daily BS begins
Bazinga!
right now.
Right. Googly moogly.
Hadouken!
Hey, this promises to be fun.
Can't wait.
Well, good afternoon, folks. Brian Snow is here and with you, and we're ready to get down to some daily BS business, sports and culture combined into one. You can hear a replay of this show 1 hour after its completion, and the premiere of the Daily BS podcast will also be available 1 hour after this show's completion. We are on all kinds of networks and stations all across the country. Well, let me use my normal phrase, in the region, across the nation, and around the world. So if you're in your car on the drive home and you got me via your phone, via your laptop, via whatever, welcome to the Daily BS, and let old Brian take you home with some great sports and culture talk. All right, enough introductions. Let's get started. I'll start with this. There were some people that listened to my podcast and my show yesterday, and they were not happy. And to that I say, good. Why do I say that? Well, if you tuned in to the show yesterday, number one, thank you. And number two, you know what the subject matter was. For the first hour, I had Cole Johnson on the show, and we talked a comparison of LeBron James to other players, namely Michael Jordan. Now, did I say at all yesterday, for those of you that listened, did I say anything at all to the point where I said Jordan was perfect and LeBron was always wrong? No, I did not. In fact, I seem to remember saying that Jordan was not perfect, that Jordan had to learn a few things along the way. The point I made about LeBron is that he is missing the one thing that he's needed in his life when it came to basketball. Let me be clear. When it came to basketball, progression. All of the greats, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Akeem Olajuwon, they had to have some sort of obstacle, whether it was in high school or college or the NBA, to get through to become a champion and to become a legend. And they got through them. Of course, you know one of the biggest ones with Michael Jordan was the Detroit Pistons. What was the biggest one with Magic Johnson? They had to play Game 6 in Philadelphia without their captain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I've always said LeBron James is a wonderful athlete. He's just an incomplete basketball player. Well, as y'all know, and I hate saying it this bluntly, and I'm going to say it as bluntly as I will. I was in a group, a little backstory. I was in a group called 94 Feet of Life, a supposed basketball group on Facebook. And I say supposed because some of the conversation in there doesn't involve any real research. More on that later. But Cole and I were on for a full hour yesterday, for hour one, talking the difference between LeBron and some of the greats that preceded him. I also made the point that Michael Jordan didn't even say that he was the greatest, although many, myself included, consider him to be. That's a fun debate to have. And it's just that, a debate. Well, I got some backlash yesterday with my podcast to the tune of comments like these from a fellow named Marcus Blackstock. And y'all are gonna love these. He said, quote, "Brian, you spent a whole hour bitching about LeBron and the fans. That's the same thing you accused others of doing to you. So why did you waste a whole hour complaining about him?" Close quote. First of all, I didn't spend a whole hour complaining about him. I was comparing his game to others. Since others want to compare his game to Michael Jordan, I went and broke that prospect down. If you actually listen to more than 4 minutes of the program, you'll actually understand where I was going, where I was coming from, and where I was getting to. But unfortunately, Marcus Blackstock, you didn't listen to the entire program, nor have you bothered to listen to my show. This is why I never explained anything in the group, because I knew you would take something that I said or my guest said and twist it completely out of context like a pretzel with salt on it. That's why I left the group. I also got this from Marv Cotton Cole, and yes, I am dropping names this morning. That chase down block is one of the greatest in finals history, and the fact that he came back from 3-1 versus a team that just set the record for wins in the season is one of the greatest comebacks in history. I'll hit those 2 points in a moment. You spent 60 minutes, and if you actually learn how to spell, then actually I can understand what you're saying. In any case, you spent 60 minutes attempting to complain and belittle Bron, but won't take 3 minutes to respond to comments made on a post. Maybe there is a reason why I won't take 3 minutes to respond to comments made on a post. Maybe there was a reason why I won't take 3 minutes of your precious time and make you understand the old school way where I'm coming from when it comes to basketball, when you use your eyes and not just statistics. Maybe there is a reason why I didn't take 3 minutes of you all's precious time and actually explain myself, why I've been a journalist for 25 years and y'all are just fans. Maybe there is a reason why I dropped the podcast in there to get you guys to listen. And thank you for listening, by the way. Maybe there was a reason why I did everything in the group the way that I did. I'm just sorry it went right over your head like I totally expected it to. Here's another one. And I got to tell you, y'all are going to love this. Y'all are absolutely going to love this. You have to give me a moment to find it, and I found it. Did I mention that people don't have any sense? How about this? The Bronsexuals tag, Ronnie C. Jr. I'm dropping names today, folks. Ronnie C. Jr. says, the Bronsexuals tag killed my interest. Let me read that again. Quote, the Bronsexuals tag killed my interest. And these comments confirm my suspicions. Insulting people who's fans of a certain player, not the way to go. Plus, it's one-sided. I'm good. Close quote. How can you be so stupid and so blind and so dumb and so deaf? I retract that question. I am sorry. I'll retract that question, and I'll pose this one instead. Why'd you let the point of my show go right over your head? As I said a few moments ago, maybe there's a reason why I did everything the way that I did. The fact that you actually took the time to listen even for a little bit, A, allows me to say thank you, and B, just proves to me what you all are in that group, which is a bunch of fans that don't do any research, a bunch of fans that don't even bother to take the time to look at my points and visualize them with his play on the court. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I apologize for the way I was going to phrase my question. Why don't you guys just take the time to look and listen to what I'm saying and how I'm saying it? Why don't you take the time to do that? Why don't you take the time to actually think about my points instead of just attacking them? why don't you take the time to actually listen to the points that I made, because I did not diss any fans, nor will I diss any fans. I'm just saying y'all look at it one-sided and don't look at the entire picture, something I'll admit I was accused of for many years in this business. When I get down to the business of research, I look at everything. I don't just look at numbers. I don't just look at fantastic plays. I look at the entire game. And a couple of my statements still stand. Number one, LeBron's game is still incomplete even in his 17th year. If he had a post game, some better footwork, and maybe a jumper that worked from time to time, then maybe, just maybe, I'll enter him into the greatest of all time conversation. But considering the fact that in 2011, and thank you Cole Johnson for remembering this for me, but considering the fact in 2011, in games 3 through 6, he scored a total of 8 points in the fourth quarter. That's 2 points for each game, by the way, if you do your math. It eliminated him from the greatest of all time conversation. And there's no way he'll re-enter the conversation from my standpoint, from Cole's standpoint, and for any other real basketball fan's standpoint. You gotta remember, you have to produce when the time comes. You have to produce when the lights are brightest. And as far as I'm concerned, even given the fact that the Cavaliers and LeBron James did erase a 3-1 lead versus the Golden State Warriors in 2016, as far as I'm concerned, LeBron is still not the greatest, because for that series, it should have been Kyrie Irving named the unanimous MVP, because he did something LeBron hasn't done but once. Oh yeah, that will be hit the game-winning shot in a world championship series. Oh, and by the way, the next 2 years, LeBron James got baked in the sun against the Golden State Warriors. They only played a total of 9 games. The Warriors won 8 of them. Yeah, that will be 2 championships. You guys really need to learn how to watch basketball and pay attention to basketball. You guys really need to learn about how a professional broadcaster, yours truly, has been doing this for 25 seasons. Now I understand all the hatred that Stephen A. Smith goes through when people come at him. Stephen A., I retract any bad words I may have said about you in the past. Now I completely understand. I understand now. And the mountain climb continues. Back in the flash. Hey folks, Snowman here. Mark your calendars for April 20th. That's 2 weeks from now, because that's when I'm going to launch on my website the Snowman Digital Media Store. T-shirts, hats, mugs, all kinds of stuff with your favorite show logo or the Snowman Digital Media logo. That comes 2 weeks. April 20th is when the store will launch, and you can only see it on snowmandigitalmedia.com.
You're tuned in to the Daily BS. Sports and culture combined into one.
Now that I got all that off my chest about certain people and spat show to the program, how are you, my friend?
Good, Snowman. Still isolated here like most of the country, waiting for sports to come back. Maybe some good news on the horizon, but doing like everyone else, just trying to survive, my friend.
Yeah, same here. Same here. How have you been able to deal?
Well, the thing is, I do watch a lot of news, which probably isn't the healthiest thing to do. So I go, mostly CNN, a little MSNBC mixed in, a little Fox News, to try to get different approaches from three major networks and how they're covering this. So I do follow the news. I watch Governor Andrew Cuomo from New York pretty much every day to see what he has to say, and I watch the White House press briefings, which can be very entertaining, frustrating, and maddening all kind of at once. So I do a lot of that. I'll watch some of my old favorite programs. MTV or Cozy has a lot of the old programs, but also I'll just go on YouTube and try to research anything, old football games, old basketball games, old interviews with Tom Snyder, interviewing whoever. So, just different things to try to keep myself occupied. I haven't really been a big proponent of Netflix. I think I'm going to have to break into that at some point. I know that's great programming, so that's going to be the next step.
Yeah, my wife got me into Hulu and Vudu, during these isolation times. Like I said last week, she got me into watching baking championships. When I posed the question, what do you binge watching? And we tried a few of those recipes, and they were pretty darn good.
Oh yeah, I mean, I watch the Food Network. I watch HGTV. I love watching how they go in and take a home and refurbish it and make it more modern. All of those things are fascinating. You have to branch out a little bit. We're all into sports generally, but I've always been into sports, politics, and movies. Those have always been my three go-tos. And, of course, without sports available, more politics, more news, and even movies are difficult because movie theaters are shut down at this point.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an adjustment period, but we're just hoping that if we start to get some better news over the next couple of weeks, because this is supposed to be the most critical time the next couple of weeks, that that curve flattens and starts to go down, that maybe we can dream about seeing sports a couple of months down the road.
Yeah, I hope it's sooner than a couple of months. I mean, it gets maddening to a lot of people, but like you, I've been doing a lot of research online, also looking at old games, looking at old movies and things like that, and I found some of my favorites. What have been some of your favorite games that you've watched over the years that you were able to find?
Well, it's just basically, I'm a big LeBron 7 where the Cavaliers down 3-1 continued that series with a win in Game 5 at Golden State and then winning it in Game 7. So I got to tune into that type of stuff. Sunday, Fox played the Packers steal the Super Bowl 45. I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, so that was kind of fun to see. And I just went back to that. When the Packers won that Super Bowl, Rodgers was 27. They had a really great young team, and you just expected them to win multiple Super Bowls, and it hasn't happened. They haven't gone back to the Super Bowls in 10 years. So that kind of made me, a little sad and frustrated as a Packers fan, more specifically an Aaron Rodgers fan. And, so I just, watching all of my favorite athletes do all their amazing things over the years to do that. But then, even locally here in Boston, a lot of Celtics games have been replayed. The 86 Celtics, which I covered as a freelancer for ESPN when I was, of course, much younger. That team was just incredible. I think that team could match up against any of the all-time greats. And in that play, we got to see Michael Jordan's record-setting playoff performance at the old Boston Garden. The Bulls were clearly overmatched in that series, but Jordan got game 2 to overtime before the Bulls lost. That was the first time that you saw Michael Jordan and said, holy crap, this guy's different than anyone else. So, some they go down memory road.
And I found a gem. I found an absolute gem concerning that particular game, April 20th, 1986. I found, me being in Chicago, from Chicago, I found the WMAQ radio call with my favorite voices, Jim Durham and Johnny Kerr, for that entire broadcast.
Kerr, sure.
Yeah. I have a couple pieces of Johnny Most because he was the Celtics voice for a very long time. And I found some old games with Chick Hearn voicing the Lakers. So from that era, from I'd say 81 to 90, I found a lot of games in that era, and I'm just sitting glued to the computer going, man, I miss this.
Oh, yeah, it was spectacular. Yeah, I'm one of the older guys. I mean, I'm going to be 57 later this month. I think basketball's better now than it was then. I know most people in my age group will say, oh, no, it was much better back then. I think the talent level is through the roof right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 7-footers that regularly hit three-pointers. I mean, Kevin Durant is a cyborg out there. LeBron James, I think, is the most gifted player we've ever seen. Yes, the 80s was very competitive. It was a different type of game. It was a little bit more physical. You didn't see the dearth of three-point attempts like you see now. I mean, you go back and, Larry Bird would attempt 3 or 4 a game, maybe. And I'm just thinking if Larry Bird played now, he'd be hoisting up 12 a game regularly and hitting 4, 5, 6 of them, and Lord knows what he'd be averaging a game. So, yes, it's great to look back at that stuff.
It really is great to look back at that. I even found a couple of old Blackhawks games from the 80s when I really started getting into it. 89 and 90 is when I started getting into hockey. Of course, 1990 Edmonton Oilers and Boston Bruins played in the Stanley Cup final that series, and that was Mark Messier's last stand in Edmonton. I believe he was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner for that year. So it's a little bit of
beat the Bruins twice in 3 years to win the cup.
Right. I also found, speaking of hockey gems, I found this gem that took place in Philadelphia, Edmonton and Philadelphia, Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals at the old Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton.
Is that 1987?
1987.
Yep.
Grant Fuhrer and Ron Hextall between the pipes.
I think Hextall won the Conn Smythe even though his team lost that series.
He did. Yeah,
he was
Hextall
just spectacular. I mean, that was a great series.
It could have gone either way for the Flyers or for the Oilers, but it was one of the best Stanley Cup final I ever watched.
Oh, without question. And hockey sometimes gets forgotten somewhat, especially in the media. I think it's a niche sport, so if you like it, you love to talk about it. I recently had a column on Full Press Coverage where I proclaimed Mario Lemieux is the greatest player of all time over Gretzky and Orr. And, of course, there's been a lot of blowback to that, but I firmly believe that he is the best player that that sport has ever seen. You go through the stats. If he and Gretzky, they average essentially the same points per game,
right?
But Lemieux averages more goals per game than Gretzky, and I value goals over assists.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that he was 6'5" and was a physical player who could dominate in all three areas, defense, the neutral zone, and up front. And the amount of shorthanded goals the guy had in his career. I mean, he scored 5 goals in one game in 5 different fashions. That's never been done in the sport. And I got to interview a couple of players that played with both Gretzky and Lemieux, and I asked them, who was better, and they all said Lemieux. They said strictly by the fact that the guy was that much bigger, stronger, and could do everything that Gretzky could do, and Gretzky couldn't necessarily do everything that Lemieux could do. So I think Lemieux's the greatest player ever. Of course, in this neck of the woods, it's Bob Orr, who, by the way, was my first sports hero.
Nice.
It's tough to say that your first sports hero isn't the GOAT, but I think Orr is a very formidable number 3 when it comes to the all-time rankings, but behind Lemieux at 1 and Gretzky at 2.
Yeah. Gretzky and Lemieux and some of the great games that they put on. Gretzky and Lemieux are 2 of the reasons I got into hockey. And me getting into watching the Chicago Blackhawks, Dennis Savard, Doug Wilson, Eddie the Eagle Belfour, that got me really got me into hockey. And of course now Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane, 3 Stanley Cup championships with those guys.
Yep.
It's fun. Hockey is a fun sport to watch. I'll tell you a funny story. I haven't told this one on the program. 2013, Hawks were playing the Los Angeles Kings for the Western Conference title.
Mm-hmm.
Hawks were up 3-1, and Game 5 was at the United Center. I got in late from work that night, and I had to find a way to watch the game without disturbing my mother, because if I make any little sound in the house, my mom's going to wake up. So I had to get creative. When the Kings tied it up 3-3, I came right upstairs and I put my headphones on and I said, I'm going to go to bed. And I'll find out what happened in the morning. But then something inside of me sat me up and said, no, we got to see this through. If we go to Game 6, we go to Game 6. So I'm like, okay, how can I do this? And then I got real smart and did something I used to do back in the day. I took one of my MP3 players and a headset, and I went downstairs, turned on the television, but I turned down the sound because I had John Weideman from a WGN in my ears. And when Patrick Kane scored the game winner, I didn't go upstairs to celebrate. I went down to the basement to make sure my mother wouldn't hear me.
Yeah, sports fans, we do some of the craziest things. That
Don't we?
Sports fans say, these guys are weird, but sometimes I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, yeah, sometimes when you're watching a game and your team's playing, you move a little bit and say, okay, let me move to a different part of the room. Let me, get something to eat that's going to change. Or let me start chewing gum, and if they make a run, you continue to chew gum. Yeah, it's crazy. I am quite superstitious when it comes to that stuff. Just, obviously, if it's in my mind, it's there because there's not much else in my mind. So, if it helps the cause, then so be it.
Give you one more before we head to a break. This past season, of course, people who know me, and you know me, I'm a big-time 49er fan. Joe Montana made me a 49er fan. They were playing New Orleans, and New Orleans had just taken the lead. They missed the 2-point conversion, and the 49ers had the ball, and it was 4th and 2. And my wife and I were trying to take a nap because we had to work that night. Well, my wife was asleep, and I'm watching the game on my phone, and it was 4th and 2. And I said, if the 49ers do something, I have to be completely still. I can't shake the bed. I can't get excited. And, of course, Garoppolo hits that big one to Kittle for 39 yards that led to the game-winning field goal. So I'm trying to pump my fist and not shake the bed and wake up. And later on, I told her what happened. She looked at me and she said, honey, you wouldn't have woken me up anyway. I was too sleepy.
And a deep sleep, exactly. That's a good answer that she had for you. But you're right. Yeah, you just, want to get in that comfortable position, and you want to make sure that you're not going to disturb anybody that's with you.
Right.
Fortunately, I live alone, so, but I'm also to the point now when it comes to age, I don't get as excited as I used to.
Right.
It has to be a pretty serious game for me to get pumped up. Usually involves LeBron and now the Lakers, and of course Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Those are the two teams I root for, the two players I root for the most.
Right.
I'm also a San Francisco Giants fan.
Oh, there you go.
That's because I'm the biggest Barry Bonds fan. So even after he retired, I remained a Giants fan. Just unfortunate that, the title did come with him being there, because he literally saved baseball in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
When he signed as a free agent after the 92 season, it shocked everyone. They just assumed that Barry Bonds was going to go play for the Atlanta Braves.
Right.
And at that point, the Giants were close to moving to Tampa. But Bonds signed with the Giants, kept them in San Francisco. They built a beautiful ballpark and came so close to winning the 0-2 World Series, where if they had won that World Series, I would have cashed a lot in Vegas, because I had them before the season to win the division, which they did, and they were the wild card, but also to win the National League and the World Series. And they had a 5-0 lead in the 7th inning of Game 6 and ended up losing 6-5 and then losing the next night 4-1. And I didn't cash the World Series ticket.
Yeah. I wish he would have gotten one. I wish Bonds would have gotten at least one before he retired, and it would have been perfect for him to get that title in San Francisco. And of course, after he leaves, after he retires, they get 3 of them in the 2010s, 10, 12, and 14.
Yeah,
they get 3 of them, 2010, 2012, and 2014. Well, our time is up here for this.
Well, they finally got pitching.
Yeah,
they finally got pitching. That's the most important thing. They had the best player ever, and they still couldn't get it done.
Yeah. Run support means a lot, and so does pitching. Giants finally got some pitching. We're coming up on a break, but John Sapachetti of Sop and Cat joining me here. Man, thanks a lot, as always. I love having you on. Can't wait to have you on again.
Anytime, Snowman. Have a great day.
Pause for a break. Got some more stuff for you. Back after this. Hey folks, Snowman here. Mark your calendars for April 20th. That's 2 weeks from now, because that's when I'm going to launch on my website the Snowman Digital Media Store. T-shirts, hats, mugs, all kinds of stuff with your favorite show logo or the Snowman Digital Media logo. That comes 2 weeks. April 20th is when the store will launch, and you can only see it on snowmandigitalmedia.com.
You're tuned in to the Daily BS. Sports and culture combined into one.
I have been waiting to get this gentleman on the program, and he's on the program right now because the last time we tried to connect, he was on the road, and then I had to go on the road to Charlotte, but I have him now. Malik Jackson joins me. How are you, my friend?
I am doing amazing. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful to have you on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to get on the show, man. I'm very, very grateful for this, and I'm very anticipated on what we're about to be speaking about.
Okay. How fast can we get the NBA back? Let me put it another way. And I mean this in fun, folks. Don't get it twisted. I mean this in fun. How fast can we get sports back?
Very much so. It's just, what is going on? It's just, being in the house, it's like you're trying to make up topics to even speak on, but it's just like, it's very, very tough during these times, man. I'll tell you that.
It really is. And we hope everybody, from the heart, we hope everybody is taking care of themselves and staying hunkered down. The social distancing moratorium, and it's a stupid term. It should be physical distancing, but let's use the words that they've given us in the immortal words of one George Carlin. The social distancing moratorium is set to expire April 30th. By God, I hope it does. But
indeed.
I've asked my guests this, and I've asked fans this. How would you devise a plan to put the NBA back in motion?
This is a great question. Just because we were coming to the end of the season, primarily, we had the last month, but it's so weird because you have so many teams in the Western Conference, that had the chance to get into the playoffs. Of course, the Rookie of the Year race with the Grizzlies and, the Pelicans. Who knows what that would have been coming to the, trying to get the 8th spot or whatever the case may be. So it's very, very interesting. And then me being here in Washington, D.C., you have the Wizards, who are about like 3 games out of being in the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference.
It's the Washington Bullets, doggone it.
Hey, and listen, I second that because I'm not going to lie, I love that name.
Bullets. I understand why they went PC. Washington going PC. That's a conversation for later. I understand why they did that. I do, okay? I joke about it a lot. But I'm old school. It's the Washington Bullets.
I know, right? I mean, that's when they actually were pretty good, with Wes Unseld and the guys.
Yes, Bobby Danridge.
At least winning one championship, they had one banner to raise, but
when they played at the Capitol Center. How about that for a memory? When they played at the Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland.
Yep. Those were good times. My mom always speaks about it all the time.
Yeah.
She speaks about all of the events that were at the Capitol Center. People loved the Capitol Center back in the day. It was so electric.
It was.
Even RFK Stadium, when the Redskins were winning their Super Bowls, you
remember the day RFK shook with the chants of, "We want Dallas. We want Dallas."
Yes. Although I'm too young to have been there or to have even heard it, my mom and my whole entire family, they're diehard Redskins fans. So shout out to them. Shout out to my family, But
I think
like
the
you
next
said, Brian,
time, I think I know the next time I bring you on, I'll have to play Hail to the Redskins for you. I'll have to play it the next time I have it.
Respect. But I am not a Redskins fan, though.
What's your team?
Just so the people know,
Who's your
I
team?
am an Atlanta Falcons fan.
Oh,
you know,
geez.
I do like the Falcons.
Why do you like the Dirty Birds? What turned you on to the what turned you on to the Dirty Birds?
Okay, so I was flippy floppy in the earlier times of my liking teams. You know, I was going through players, liking a certain amount of players, but I never liked a specific team. You know what I mean? So
understood.
I liked Allen Iverson for a long time. I liked Steve McNair for the Tennessee Titans. You know, versus Soul. But I was just bouncing around from teams, and then it was like in 2003, 2004, I started to really hone in on like who were my favorite players, and like I need a team. Like I can't keep bouncing around from team to team. And then, you know, being here in Washington, you don't really have the best of choices of teams, especially back then during the time that it was. You know, you have the Redskins, who they might have had maybe Patrick Ramsey back then as their starting quarterback. You know, they are one of the franchises that frequently changes up their quarterback and head coach.
True.
So it was just very inconsistent for me. So I just went about it, and I was just like, you know what? I really like Michael Vick. I really like what he's doing. I mean, he was the Allen Iverson to me of football at the time.
Yeah.
You know, and not disputing everything he did with the dog fighting and things, you know, but he really changed his life after that. But that's needless to say. But, you know, he was just so super talented. And so for me, I just wanted to make sure that I could narrow down my options. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be an Atlanta Falcons fan. And from there, I just kind of went with it.
Yeah. I get the same question. I'm from Chicago, and people just assume that A, I'm a Bears fan, which I partially am, and B, I'm a Cubs fan, which I'm nowhere near. All right? I'm all about the White Sox, and I have been for most of my life. But my first favorite team, they had a fellow by the name of Joe Montana as their quarterback. And, of course, I'm speaking of the San Francisco 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when the 49ers made it to the Super Bowl this past year, and I the night of the NFC Championship, and I've never told this story on air, and I'm going to right now. The night of the NFC Championship, when they played the Green Bay Packers, I was sitting here in my chair, and I was glued to the chair and to the television. And my wife walks past me, and she says, "You know the 49ers are going to win, right?" I said, "Honey, I hope you're right." She finds a way to cheer me up when I'm nervous as all get out. And then Raheem Mostert scored that first touchdown. Part of my brain is thinking, okay, game over. I can relax. My wife walks past me and she says, "Finally, I see you in football mode and not football/journalist mode." And I fell out laughing.
It's a difference.
Fell out. It's a big difference. When she said that, I fell out laughing, and she just sees me going nuts, and she just walks up to me just as calm as ever and looks up at me, and she goes, "You are okay, right?" I love her dearly, especially when we tease each other about our teams. But back to the original question before I decided to take a trip to Tangent City with you concerning the Atlanta Falcons. How would you bring the NBA back?
Okay, well, bringing it back, I think that they should start out by seeing how physically, I feel kind of bad for the players because you've seen the Greek Freak come out and say he doesn't have access to a hoop. A lot of these players are going to come back being rusty.
Yeah.
And they might not have the same type of momentum. I mean, you're talking about every single day you're practicing, you're getting shots up, and every other day you're either in another city traveling to a game or you're in team meetings. You're knowing what the agenda is for the next game, the game plan. You know what I mean? So not being around your coaches, not saying that they possibly I guess that would be kind of tampering. I mean, if you're talking to your coaches still, but I mean, I guess not. But, you know, in terms of that, it's just like that's going to be the most difficult thing. But I feel like they might have to either have a selective number of games for the teams in the the echelon who need to get into great playoff seeding, meaning, I guess, only have a couple of games. But there's so many teams that actually have the chance to make it to the playoffs. So it's like, you have to play out the rest of the games, or at least the rest of the regular season. And what are we, like 67 games around that mark or something like that, around that mark. So it's probably like 17. I mean, I said 17, 15 more games to go. And so I guess that you can play at least those games out. I don't know how you get the people. You probably would have to play without people if Adam Silver is wanting to rush back, because this epidemic, which everybody should stay home and stay safe.
Yes, please.
I really don't think that there will be any fans, let alone media, anything of that nature at the games. But then it's like, what is the excitement going to come from? This is really weird for me. I don't know how they're going to bring it back, but for Adam Silver to come out when President Trump called everybody and, to all of the commissioners and were asking, what do you think about it? For him being the NBA commissioner, for him to come out, he's ready to get back, because he understands that the lack of productivity from the players and the lack of movement from the players and the teams and the coaches, it's going to hinder the rest of the season. No matter if you were the number one seed being the Los Angeles Lakers or being the worst team in the league, you're literally not going to have any type of momentum. So, I don't know. LeBron posts, he's on Instagram all the time posting him working out and being with the kids and stuff. So, LeBron, he's putting in work. He is. But, for the other cats that don't have the chance to actually get to a gym or anything like that, I just think that it's going to be rusty. But in terms of them bringing back the NBA, I think that would be the best bet as far as the fairness for the other teams who can actually have the chance to get to the playoffs. You get what I mean? Because if you don't give them that chance, it's like this season is kind of like in shambles, because you took away the momentum of so many teams. I think that's the biggest thing for me, the momentum. Because certain teams were filling a stride. You had Bradley Beal playing phenomenally before this happened. He was dropping he's second in the league right now in points. So, he was hitting a stride. He saw that they could get to the 8th seed. These teams who are at the 9th and 10th in both conferences, they're wanting to hit that stride. So I think that the NBA has to do something to include those teams to make sure that everything is equal and fair for everybody that wants to be in the playoff picture.
Here's a question, and one of my earlier guests brought this up, and I really believe it can happen. Given the state of the pandemic and how leagues are trying to find ways to either restart or start their season, Major League Baseball, can we institute something Major League Baseball instituted in the form of a wild card game, like 8 versus 9? Would that be a good idea?
That's interesting. Being though that the NBA wanted to include a tournament inside of the seasons coming, as a proposal, that's interesting to me, because who knows? For most teams, if you're not if you don't have players as talented on your team, it's like you're already going into the season not wanting to be a lackluster team or not wanting to tank per se, quote unquote, because, a lot of teams, they want to tank. And I listened to the All the Smoke podcast with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, and they were speaking about, how they were in the league and they wouldn't put them inside of games. Well, Steven Jackson, to be exact. And he was just like, why am I even here? Like, I want to be on a contending team. So you deal with that a lot of the times, and it's a lot of, player circumstantial. But anyway, back to the question. I just feel like that might be an interesting idea just because it's so much time missed. You get what I mean? Yeah. So I think that would be the best possible ordeal if not you play out the games. Because a tournament is just like, bam. You're actually getting your chance to possibly get in the playoffs. I don't know if they might include the 10th seed because they might want to do that, but the 8 and the 9, at least you're having a chance to battle it out. You know what I mean? It's not like you giving up on the entire season per se, right? Because you really were trying to get to the playoffs, and there's a lot of teams were pushing. I don't know the statistics of the last 5 or 10 games, but when you look at that, it's just like, I don't know. I think that it will be interesting to see, definitely, but it's definitely would be doable, in my opinion. I think that would be something that Adam Silver could look at and that definitely ponder on, because you're already talking about having a mid-season tournament. So why not implement it right now? Not a tournament per se, but you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Malik Jackson joining me here on the program. How would you do the same? How would you institute the return of the NHL? Let's have some fun here. How would you institute the return of the NHL?
So with the NHL, I feel like it's just different. I feel like it's a different league. I feel like just the peers are different. They weren't that many coronavirus. There weren't that many players that tested positive for the coronavirus.
True.
Yeah, you had some trainers maybe, but no, it wasn't a lot of players. I mean, you had a couple of Ottawa Senators, you had a Colorado Avalanche player, but like it wasn't like the NBA where you had Detroit, you had LA, you had multiple teams that had interacted with teams. You had the Jazz that had played the Nets, and then of course, that came out with Kevin Durant. So it's like you had actual players that were very, very sick, and not just one player; it was multiple players. So it was like with the NBA trying to rush to get back to things. I guess they're just saying like, we'll just jump start it. But with the NHL, you have a lot of players like. For one of the teams that I write articles for, the Washington Capitals, you have Nicholas Backstrom saying, if we have to go into the summer, let's do it. Like it's multiple players coming out. Connor McDavid is saying like, if we have to go into the summertime, let's do it. Like you don't want to go through an entire season without getting that privilege of hoisting up the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So it's just like these teams are actually working so hard, and then a little bit of the fan in me wants the regular season to come back just because Alex Ovechkin is on the brink of having another 50-goal season. Yeah. So I'm just like eager to see him get that accomplishment again, just because he's chasing Wayne Gretzky, So
right.
It just really sucks right now. I mean, the time period of things, and I'm not going to say
lost
in regards.
The game's lost.
Exactly. I'm not going to say that it sucks in regards to the teams not needing to be around people, but just the accomplishments of some of these players who worked through the off season, being very, very, very diligent in their off season productivity. So it's just like, give them something. The NHL. I felt like he's going to do something. The NHL commissioner Dave. I don't know. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow. I think if the NBA does implement it first, then the other pro sports leagues will start to, they will start to join force. But until somebody comes back from it, and depending on what President Trump says about it, it's going to be a toss-up for me. But I'm eager for the NHL to get back. But I don't think it's going to get back until the summertime, because players are willing to wait out, and these are star players. You get what I mean? So I think they'll come during the summertime. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
Because this pandemic it's really taking a toll on the world at this point. But U.S. has the most quote unquote cases, and I just think that people should stay safe.
Wimbledon canceled.
Yeah.
The Masters postponed / canceled. U.S. Open gone. NHL, all the sports leagues on hold for right now. The threat of no All-Star game in Major League Baseball. I mean, to say that this pandemic, this coronavirus pandemic, has the sports world in a vice grip would be a horrible, horrible understatement. Canadian Football League delaying the start of the season. WNBA delaying the start of the season. This is serious. You want everyone to be safe. And fans like myself, who are also journalists, the fan side of me is coming out and saying, hey, can we get some sports back? But at the same time, I'm also saying, stay safe, everybody. And I'm going to continue to say that as my habit. Go to work, come home, crank up and do the show. But we want everyone, if you have to stay home, please stay home. But let's talk some more sports here. Malik Jackson joining me here on the program. Are you a Nationals fan?
I am a Nationals fan.
Good.
Funny thing is, I never been big on baseball, so it's crazy.
You will when I get finished.
I'm sorry. What did you? I couldn't hear. What did you say?
You will when I get finished. No, I'm just kidding.
Respect. But it's funny. The past 2 years, I saw them play, and I've been going to games and stuff. Haven't had the chance to cover them or anything yet, but that's coming in the near future, of course. I'm praying up for that opportunity to come. And I saw them play terribly, of course, last season. They were playing terrible in the first 50, and then I just saw them just erupt. And that's when I really started to pay attention. But the previous years before that, the Bryce Harper years, I was paying attention seldomly, went to games and stuff, but never really focused in on baseball. And so it was just a joy for me to just see Trey Turner, to see Anthony Rendon, and Juan Soto, who I believe is going to be one of the best baseball players for the next coming years, because that guy,
that kid,
has ice in his veins. He is amazing. And then, of course, the Soto shuffle when he's at the plate. I mean, this guy is a stud. As a teenager, he was a teenager doing these things. You know what I mean? That's unthinkable in the history of baseball. We had Bryce Harper do it, but he broke Bryce Harper's record. So I was just like, wow. So yeah, it was really hot. It was really good to see. I was actually down in Navy Yard in Washington, D.C., where the ballpark is, and I was there for every single playoff. Every single thing. It was so electric. When Washington, D.C. sports actually does good, the fans here are probably one of the best fan bases, period. The Redskins have the most fans out of the DMV, of course, but they haven't been good for years. So it's like when you have the Capitals doing good, shout out to the Mystics. A lot of people forget about the WNBA a lot, but the Mystics.
I don't. I've covered the WNBA for years. I've covered the WNBA since the Chicago Sky made their first appearance in the WNBA finals. I was covering them even a couple of years before then. But I want to give you a little present here. Here's one reason why I'm a fan of the Nationals. I will always love my hometown team, the Chicago White Sox. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I got a couple of reasons why I love the Nationals. They're just a gritty team, and one of my favorite announced teams is Charlie Slows and Dave Jagler. Here's the clip I led off my Halloween episode of Snowman in the Morning with, and my Halloween episode of the Daily BS with. This is courtesy of WJFK, and, well, just listen.
As the Nationals are a strike away from franchise history and some World Series history. As Hudson tries to close it out. It'll be another 3-2 pitch.
Hello.
To Michael Brantley.
Right here.
Hudson sets.
Just
the kick in. Here it comes. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
I had to throw that World Series call in there, folks.
Hey.
Okay, let's see a WK. Charlie Slows, Dave Jagler doing the honors. You want to talk about excitement?
Man.
I saw a video online of Alex Ovechkin and the Capitals celebrating.
You're talking about a celebration. I don't think a Stanley Cup winner, a Stanley Cup champion team has celebrated like that. The joy of Alex Ovechkin, the joy of him actually finally getting through the Penguins and winning the Stanley Cup was just the biggest deal for him, because that was the only thing that was holding over his, you know, he was already solidified as a Hall of Famer from his rookie year when he did the falling down goal. And then he broke the record for the most goals scored by a left winger in the season. I mean, he's already had the attributes, the accolades, every single thing. But once he won that Stanley Cup, it was just like, whew,
he let it go.
Weight just lifted.
It was, you know, a Stanley Cup match. I will close with this. You know, a Stanley Cup matchup I would love to see, and I'll just do it by players. Alex Ovechkin on one side and Patrick Kane on another side.
Oh, my goodness. We talked about this, remember? We talked about this.
I want to see Alex Ovechkin and Patrick Kane have a duel for Lord Stanley. I want to see that one year, man.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, you're talking about the two of this generation, of course.
Yes.
The two most dominant athletes in the NHL.
And prolific scorers.
And not to put anything past, I actually like Jonathan Toews more than Patrick Kane. I love Patrick Kane, but Jonathan Toews as the captain,
I love Toews.
Every Game 7,
I love
he
Toews.
Always scores.
Yeah,
I love Toews.
He's never not scored in a Game 7. And the Anaheim Ducks will hate Jonathan Toews for years if you go back to 2015 when Toews opened the scoring not once but twice, and then Patrick Kane got in on the fun. Marian Hossa got in on the fun of a 5-2 final. But, man.
Oh, yeah.
Ovechkin versus Toews on a face-off.
Oh, my goodness. It would be crazy. And let's not forget Nicholas Backstrom or Kuznetsov. You know, the Capitals are just loaded, man.
Yep.
And it's crazy to me that but the Blackhawks, my thing is, I went to school in Wisconsin, so Wisconsin doesn't have a hockey team, so you have a lot of Minnesota Wild fans at my school. You have a lot of Chicago Blackhawks fans at my school. So I had a bunch of fans that would come at me when I was wearing my Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom jerseys on campus. So they'll be coming at me. They'll be like, "Man, what are you doing?" And, I can't say anything, absolutely nothing to the Blackhawks fans. Like, I'm just like, I had to hold my tongue a lot as a fan, But I'm always, as a journalist, when I'm reporting, when I would go onto the news, as an anchor or whatever, I'll always go through it, but I'll always shout out and I'll always say, like, yo, we actually had a lot of people on campus today wearing Blackhawks jerseys. But every single time I see a Minnesota Wild fan, I can absolutely talk, because every single time Alex Ovechkin plays them, he scores a hat trick. It's like anytime he goes to XL Center up there in Minnesota, he literally scores a hat trick, and it's crazy to me. Like, I feel like he has like a target on his calendar for certain teams and circles it. Like, okay, I'm going to try to get a hat trick on this team, and then it's certain teams, of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins,
Chicago Blackhawks. Yep, he has
Chicago.
He has those dates. He has those dates circled, but it's the same way with the Blackhawks, with Toews and Kane and Duncan Keith and those guys. They have certain dates. They have certain dates scheduled. I mean, we played y'all in a Winter Classic. Look, it shouldn't have been a Winter Classic. It should have been a Stanley Cup final. I want I want 1 year to have the Washington Capitals and the Chicago Blackhawks face off in the Stanley Cup Finals. The closest we got was when they faced the Boston Bruins in 2013.
And Boston had a great team. They had a great team.
Yep. But
an amazing team.
I want the Washington Capitals. I want Alex O on the other side of the face-off line when we get back to the Stanley Cup final. I want to see the Washington Capitals.
Oh, it'll happen. It'll definitely happen. I feel like Ovechkin has not a lot more years, not a lot of years left, but he definitely has a lot of juice in his tank. I mean, he has 48 goals right now, which is outrageous.
It is outrageous.
It's absolutely outrageous that he has 48 goals. He continues to be dominant every single season. I mean, it's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me that nobody can stop this guy. He's on the left circle every single game.
Yep.
He shoots from the same spot. The velocity of his shot is just crazy that
And nobody
can stop him. He's getting older and better. I mean, if you look at the stats, he scores more goals in the first 41 games of the season than he did when he scored 65 goals. Even though he doesn't keep up the same type of momentum through the season, but he's like still scoring at a high rate.
It's just times he comes out of nowhere where he has a streak of like scoring 2 goals in 7 straight games or something ridiculous like that.
Right? It's ridiculous.
And I match up Ovechkin and Kane because Kane could have the same kind of run. And I go back to 2013 against the Los Angeles Kings in Game 5 of the Western Finals, and before you knew it, Patrick Kane had a hat trick. And the game winner, was the hat trick goal. It's ridiculous.
Dude is wild.
It was ridiculous. And I was up so late that night. I was listening to the WGN call with John Weideman, and it was so funny. I'm trying not to disturb my mom. Okay, so I have my headphones on. I wanted to go downstairs and watch it, but if I crept downstairs, my mom would ask, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, all right, I gotta find a way to get away with this. So what I did was I took my computer. My mom heard me go downstairs, and of course I get the "What are you doing?" I said, "I have a project to work on, and I will be back upstairs in a little bit." Mom fell asleep. I went in right in the back, turned on my computer, put the Weideman call in my ears, and I had the NBC broadcast in front of me. And when Patrick Kane scored that game winner in double overtime, I had to go outside, way in the backyard, and scream at the top of my lungs. I was that happy.
That is hilarious. Let me see. I'll try to think of a time where I did that. Let me see. It sucks with my teams. You know, like I told you that like I said, NBA, I like the Rockets.
Yep.
NHL, Capitals. Falcons with the NFL.
Yep.
NCAA basketball men's. I do like Georgetown and the Merlin Terps. I stay home with that. And vice versa with women's basketball. Love the Terps.
Yep.
But it's just I don't have those type of moments where I can just say, "Wow, we went to a double OT game." Because it's usually I'm usually on the other side of the set. I'm usually the team that's going home sad, getting on the metro, walking home like, "Wow, we really just lost this game." Double overtime at home. We had a winning regular season, and of course, we choked. It's usually I'm on that verge of it, but
it's usually a what the hell happened kind of situation.
Absolutely. You're like, we had the best record in the NHL, we had the best record in the NFC South, we had the best record in the Western Conference, and we fall short. It's like every single time.
Then 2018 should be a royal pain for you when it came to the Rockets. Because you win 65 games. You had I got to. You had the Warriors on the ropes. You had them on the ropes. All you had to do was take care of business for 24 minutes in that nut house we like to call Oracle Arena, and I'm getting ready to burst out into laughter here because I know many Rockets fans like you. But at least you're real about it, okay? There are so many Rockets fans, you and I both know, that look through rose-colored glasses. You and I both know them, or have seen them, I beg your pardon. But you get blown out. You get outscored in the second half, 64-25. In the second half of Game 6, and it's so quiet in Texas, you could hear a pin drop through the old Summit or the Toyota Center. But then, Rockets fans spring eternal hope. We got them in our house for Game 7. Once again, big lead at halftime. Then Kevin Durant woke up.
I don't know, man. I would say this. Listen, I would say this as a loyal Rockets fan. Royal fan.
Right.
I would say that in terms of I can't remember how the consecutive threes that they shot and missed.
27.
The coaching.
I'll never forget that number. 27.
I don't understand it from a Mike D'Antoni's point of view. I understand that's what got us there.
Yep.
And I understand we don't have our point guard to lead the floor, our floor general who, messed up his hamstring. Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards to play in the NBA. But
we'll debate that later.
James Harden. You have James Harden.
Yeah.
And why? I mean, Trevor Ariza was taking threes. Nobody was going to the rim. It was absolutely atrocious.
Why was P.J. Tucker taking threes? Why was Eric Gordon taking threes when he needed to be a rim protector? And he was a rim protector.
I don't know.
He was a rim protector that got bullied by JaVale McGee.
Come on, man. And then you had even hell, you might as well just say that Clint Capella was shooting three. I mean, absolutely, he would have had a better chance to make 1 3. I mean, come on.
And Clint Capella got bullied. He got bullied by Clay. He got bullied by Steph.
The entire season.
He got bullied. He got bullied by Draymond Green. I mean, even Zaza Pachulia snuck a few elbows in. And by that time, Pachulia was at the end of the bench. You know
Absolutely.
that. You know that.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was at the end of the bench. Zaza was at the end of the bench, and JaVale, I had a chance to see JaVale play at Hales Franciscan High School in Chicago. Amazing athlete. Mm-hmm. Okay? I'm glad the Warriors gave him a chance for him to really shine and be the player that he was supposed to be.
Absolutely. And, for my second team, being a Wizards fan here in D.C., he started here with the Wizards, excuse me. And he had those spurts of showing that he could actually be a dominant center.
Yep.
And then he just, I don't know, he took a downward spiral a little bit.
And he was never in the right system. He was never in the right rotation. He was with Steve Kerr and the Warriors. He was in the right rotation and with the right team. But the Rockets, for 2 consecutive second halves, games 6 and 7, 2018 West Finals, they talked about being the bullies. They got bullied.
Indeed.
They got bullied. And a year after that, against a shorthanded Warriors team.
Man,
why did you wake a sleeping giant? Y'all were talking so much stuff at halftime, and you didn't realize, oh, Lord, the Warriors are within striking distance without Steph scoring. Okay? Steph didn't score a point in the first half. Rockets were happy. Why didn't y'all contain Andre Iguodala, the ultimate sixth man?
Right. It just, listen, and this is like I said, it loops back around to me being on that other side of the losing column. On the other side of the winning column. I'm literally always sulking, and my girlfriend will tell you, she literally has to hold me up. My family will call me. I'll post that. I will go hiatus on every social media because I know I'm going to get it from my friends as a fan. But then when you have to go on the radio and you have to get on TV and talk about this with your peers, shout out to Alex and shout out to Jake. We had our Sports Hub show and we had to talk about these losses, and I mean, it's just, it's kind of disheartening at times. It's like, why do I have to go through the pain? I'm looking at every single game, devoted, taking down stats, taking down every single thing about the game that I'm taking away. Every single impression I'm seeing from James Harden during the regular season. It's amazing. But then when it gets to the palms getting sweaty in the last 2 minutes or the last 12 minutes of the fourth quarter, it's just like they don't know what they don't know what
fold like they fold like a tent with a hole in it. They fold like a tent with a hole in it. You know it. I know it. They fold like a tent with a hole in it. You know that.
Unfortunately, man. Unfortunately.
And here's the biggest. Look, I'll ask the question again. 2019 West Semifinals, Game 6, Dubs up 3-2, Rockets hanging with the Warriors, and the Rockets failed to realize that the Warriors were within 5 at halftime because the stupidest defensive mistake they kept making. Two of them. They didn't guard Klay Thompson, and they sure as hell didn't guard Andre Iguodala.
No, they didn't.
Why?
They didn't. But I give a lot of credit to Steve Kerr and the coaching staff because they might not pull out everything in the first half. Meaning the plays that they run. I know it's a lot of down screens, a lot of up screens. You have a lot of movement. I mean, that's their bread and butter.
That's what they do.
Period.
Yep, that's what they do.
You know what I mean? It's very unguardable, especially having Durant there during those 3 seasons. It was just like, what are you going to do? You're trying to contain Stephen Curry. You're trying to contain Klay Thompson, who both are probably one of the greatest shooters combos ever, which they probably are.
Splash Brothers.
And it's just like
it's like James Harden and Russell Westbrook now are trying to be what the Splash Brothers have been since the Splash Brothers been in the league.
Facts. But they're two different players. You get what I mean? Like I feel like with Russell, and let me say this: with this season, which we're talking about, wanting it to come back. I'm not gonna lie, I do like this season the way that Russell Westbrook has taken on. Just, I mean, in the beginning of the season, I was actually at the game when they played the Wizards.
Why'd you put yourself through that?
I'm sorry. What did you say? What did you say?
I said, why did you put yourself through that?
Look, it was a great game. It was a great one.
I'll repeat my question. Why'd you put yourself through that?
I can't. I gotta go.
It's the Wizards and the Rockets.
Yeah, it was, and like I said, it was a game that was very close, which was kind of.
When was that? What was
surprised.
That game? Early part of the year?
Yes, it was October 30th, I believe. It was the same day.
That explains a lot. That the Nationals won it all. October 30th, of course.
Same day.
Same day the Nats won it all. And I mean this kiddingly because I've wasted my time at bad games too, and I know yours wasn't a bad game. Same day the Nats win it all, you were in Capital One Arena watching that? And I'm teasing you mercilessly like that. I'll say it again. I've covered my share of dogs for games. I've covered my share. Over the course of 24 years, I've covered my share. Lord knows I've covered my share. I mean, by God, I was forced to cover a Cubs game.
Oh, my goodness.
I was forced to go into Wrigley Field.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, was this during, of course, the down years? But, wow. They were getting whooped. They were getting blown out.
They were getting embarrassed.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
They were getting embarrassed. Okay. Okay. I'll close.
Look,
yeah.
You
talked about.
You had to catch yourself right there.
Yeah, I have to. But I'm not going to catch myself with this. I'll close with this story, and I've told this several times on this program. November 2nd, 2016 is a day I never want to repeat. I was living in LaPorte, Indiana, which is about an hour away from Chicago, and I was surrounded by Cub fans. And it was Game 7 of the World Series that night. I ran every errand I could run during the day because the first pitch was scheduled for 8 o'clock. I didn't want to come out of my house. I didn't want to come out of my apartment because should the Cubs, and this is what I was thinking, should the Cubs do the impossible and erase the curse, I will never hear the end of it. I must have holed up in my room with about 3 pizzas a case of beer, and eternal prayer and hope that somehow Cleveland wins. And I was so prepared. I was so prepared to go on to my show the next day and say, congratulations, Cleveland Indians, Major League Baseball champions 2016. That statement kept playing in my mind and playing in my mind and playing in my mind. And I said, okay, I can do this. Then the last out happened.
I'm sorry. I remember that game.
Then the last out happened. And I am hiding in my room for the next 2 days.
Oh, my goodness. Literally, too?
Literally. I mean, people
Wow.
were shooting off their guns in celebration. I had a ton of messages on my social media from Cub fans, real ones and supposed ones. It's like the Caps getting eliminated by the Pittsburgh Penguins coming back from 3 games to 1 down.
Oh, my goodness. Don't. Come on.
That's the best. Look, that's the best comparison I can make, all right? That's the best way I can compare this.
I got you. That hurts. Trust me. I know.
Look, it's... I told you, I was prepared. I was prepared to say, congratulations, Cleveland Indians. Okay? I wouldn't have minded. I wouldn't have minded that. I'll never say congratulations, Cleveland Cavaliers for 2016 because the Warriors got screwed, but that's a conversation for another time.
Facts.
Oh, and I hate to put Steve Harvey in the middle of this, but I gotta use a phrase of his. When the Cubs won the World Series, and even my stomach's churning right now as I say that sentence, even though it was 4 years ago. When the last out happened and I heard the call, my next 3 words were, "Oh, hell no."
Oh my goodness! Trust me, I'm telling you. Come on.
You know this feeling quite well. I know you do. But when the team
28-3. Man, trust me, I've been through it, man. Been through it.
That winning touchdown happened in Super Bowl 51, and I can just see the look on your face, and you're looking and going, "Oh, hell no!"
I shed a tear. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a man, but I shed a tear, man. It was that. It was like I was hard. It was like a dream that you've been waiting for so long. And it's in the first half, and then it just like every time Tom Brady got the ball, it was like, oh, okay. It was just like, oh, okay. And then the Julian Edelman catch, and then I knew. I was just like, yeah, this is over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's over. I was like,
I couldn't put up with that Super Bowl. I just couldn't. Because
oh my goodness.
it was 28-3. I was half tempted to turn it off. I was half tempted. I do not kid when I say this. I was half tempted to turn the game off. But to borrow a cartoon phrase, my spider senses kept tingling. My spider senses kept tingling. I had a big screen TV. I had the feed going to the TV from my laptop. My spider senses kept tingling. Don't you turn the channel. Something stupid is going to happen.
Indeed it did.
And you, I know you've been through this as a journalist and as a fan. You keep arguing with yourself. You're going, man, there's no way. Oh, hell, that's Tom Brady. Nah, he can't. Yes, he can. I better not move.
And it's funny because the same predicament of you waking up and having a lot of text messages, like, it was worse for me. It was that night. And I just was heartbroken. Like, I can't really, it's something you can't put into words. It's
Right.
just, I tell people, to the guests that are on Mr. Brian Snow's show, excuse me, let me just say this. Let me say this. I just want to say the only person that actually knew what my feeling was my college roommate, because we watched it in our dorm room together.
Oh, no.
He's the only person that knows exactly my facial expressions and my emotions throughout that entire game. My friends left out of the room because they were like, "Congratulations, Philippe." Then they left. They said, my uncle called me. He said he turned the game off, took a nap, woke up, and found out that the Falcons lost. Like, I was getting so many instances of people calling me and saying, like, I fell asleep or I turned the game off to cut something else on. And then he searched on Google that the score was 28-28. He was like, what? Man, I would never hold that down until they win the Super Bowl, man. But I don't know. It's tough now that Brady came to the Bucs, right? He would come to the Buccaneers, right? He would come into the conference, right?
Listen. I'm a 49er fan and will be for life. But every time they played the New York Giants in an NFC championship game or an NFC playoff game, I had nothing but respect because I love Bill Parcells. Okay? Giants beat us in 90 at Candlestick Park, 15-13, won on nothing but field goals. I got nothing but respect for that. I got nothing but respect for Bill Parcells, and I got a hell of a lot of respect for Tom Coughlin and the game plan he put together to beat the 49ers in Candlestick Park in 2011. I got no qualms standing up and applauding because on both of those occasions, they were hellified NFC championship games. And I was happy either way with the Giants or the 49ers getting a shot at Tom Brady. That's a conversation for later. But when you have that shot at Tom Brady and you're up 28-3, why didn't y'all run the football?
I don't know.
I could ask the same question of my young 49ers team now, but this is a young 49er team, and they're going to have many more shots to get it right. Okay?
True.
And I'm saying, I'm telling y'all right now, do not place the blame on anyone in the San Francisco organization. Yes, play calling comes into play, but at the same time, this is a very young 49er ball club that ran into a buzzsaw with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I love me some Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I love Patrick Mahomes. I love Patrick Mahomes.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I'm going to say this right now, and I know this is early, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a part 2 with Jimmy Garoppolo and Patrick Mahomes in Tampa. I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out there.
That's a bold statement.
I do not see anyone, Tom Brady included. I mean, love you, Tom Brady, but to be the champs, you have to beat the champs. And I don't see Tampa Bay doing it. I don't see Tampa Bay coming to Levi's Stadium and getting out of there without that defense harassing them for 60 minutes. If they can harass if they can harass Aaron Rodgers for 60 minutes, and they did it twice, what makes you think they won't harass Tom Brady?
Oh, absolutely. And Tampa Bay's line is not better than New England's line either. So let's put that out there. They're not. They're just not. And you saw what happened last year.
Yep.
I mean,
it's atrocious. It's atrocious.
It's just terrible. And I mean, he did not have as many weapons as he will have with Chris Goodwin and Mike Evans and the tight end. Where is their tight end's name?
They got two good. They got two good tight ends. Okay, but what's missing in that offensive package? It's the same offense. Thank you. It's a running game. I don't care how good of weapons you have. And this is what cost San Francisco against Baltimore in Super Bowl 47. Frank Gore should have touched the football 35 times. Period. He would have worn that Baltimore defense down. I understand Kaepernick was the flavor of the month, just like Jimmy Garoppolo was the flavor of the month, and I this is the only time you will hear me say I hate the 49ers, but I hate them from going away from the running game, but I believe that's going to be a lesson for later. Why did Atlanta go away from their running game against Tom Brady? Why didn't y'all use the clock to keep him off the field. I mean, Tom Brady did the impossible and threw a pick six in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Robert Alford, right?
Yep.
Running back. Robert Alford.
I mean, he was
so long. I'm
strutting.
glad he's gone. He was getting burned for so many years.
Yeah, he got blanked. Let's say it right. He got blanked. He didn't get burned. He didn't get burned. He got boinked. I'm sounding like my grandfather, who's from Macomb, Mississippi. He got boinked 300 times over. Okay, but why did it, when I had to deal your Super Bowl loss with your Falcons is the same thing I had to deal with when the Cubs won the World Series?
Absolutely. I definitely. I'm telling you, like,
and social media is ruthless.
So much.
Social media is ruthless,
man.
Because I had so many people. I had so many people texting me, sending me messages, and they're just going, "Well, how about those Cubbies?" Shut up. I can repeat every conversation you had with your friends after watching the Falcons give up a 28-3 lead. Hey, how about that Patriot comeback? Shut up.
Absolutely.
Hey, how about Tom Brady throwing for 463 yards? How about me giving you 5 across your lips?
Right? That's that type of echelon that I was talking about. Like, that's the echelon I was coming at with. I'm just like, look, you cannot come at me the next morning because they know how loyal we are, sir.
And they
know how we are.
And they unload. They empty. How do you put it? They emptied the chamber. They emptied the chamber.
Absolutely.
They emptied the chamber. You know what I know. They emptied the chamber. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? And look, sports is great, okay? We're going through a pandemic right now, but we have so many memories that we can call upon too. And it just makes you even more excited when the pandemic is gone and sports comes back and you make even more memories, okay? But you have your teams. You have your players. My teams being the Chicago White Sox, being the San Francisco 49ers, and for my beautiful baby girl Donna, and for my beautiful wife Dr. K, the Indianapolis Colts. My hometown team for NFL is the Chicago Bears. My basketball teams that I cover and follow religiously are the Golden State Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs, and of course the Chicago Bulls. Some guy named Michael Jordan played there for 13 years.
Yes, he did.
And the way we feel when we had to face the Detroit Pistons and the Bad Boys, you go in with hope eternal, but then they find a way to beat you, and you're like, damn it, how'd they do it this time?
Right.
You're going, how did they do this one? How? How'd they do this?
Man.
You're just sitting there dumbfounded. When we played the Pistons in '89, after the shot against Cleveland, beating the Knicks in 6 games, you get the Detroit Pistons. MJ has a miracle in Game 3. We're up 2-1. And then let me just say it honestly, as a fan and as a journalist, for the next 3 games, they kicked our ass.
Yeah, oh my goodness!
I love that Bad Boys team. I respect the hell out of them, and I love them, given the way the NBA is now. Okay.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I mean, you look at the NBA now, you get a ticky-tack little blow. Somebody blows in your ear. Hey, if Lance Stevenson blows in LeBron's ear now, it's a technical. It's a technical. It's a technical. Anything that happens on the
anything that happens to LeBron is a technical foul, and he flops more than a fish out of San Diego's water. True or false? He flops more than
true.
He flops more than. Listen, the two biggest floppers in the NBA right now are James Harden and LeBron James. Period. They flop more they flop more than goldfish being pulled out of a tank.
James is definitely very theatrical with his fouls, but he does get hacked, and LeBron does too. I think sometimes they get kind of pissed off because they might. Well, LeBron doesn't, but James gets calls. James gets his calls. LeBron sometimes doesn't get calls. Like every time he drives,
they both also travel a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll never forget when LeBron traveled against the Washington Wizards in the playoffs about his second season. He was under the paint and he kicked it out. I believe it was Damian Jones, and he hit the corner three.
Yep.
Man, that was heartbroken. He definitely traveled a couple of times in that game, but you know, it was the young king at the time, so they didn't.
He ain't the king.
They didn't want Gilbert, but I mean Gilbert missed the free throws, man.
Look,
so
he ain't the king. I've said it on
That's
this.
True.
He ain't the king because for me, growing up, I've delved into my research. Okay, if you really want to appoint a true king of basketball, you appoint it to Bill Russell.
Rings.
Yep. But if you want to really appoint a king, taking rings out of the equation, it's the guy who originated number 23. But he won't say that about himself because, in Michael Jordan's words, it's disrespectful to the ones that preceded them. And I agree.
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree.
Absolutely.
It's a great argument for us, but for the guys that actually step between the lines, come on now. You can do nothing but respect those words. It's a great argument of who is really the king. But when I'm watching a Pistons Bulls game from '89, the East Finals, and they get an offensive, and this is in the first quarter, they get an offensive rebound, and it comes back out to Jordan, who's about 24 feet away, and before he launches, Brent Musburger, love Brent Musburger, says, "And here's the king." You're like, whoa.
And then people also forget this, Brian. The guy literally sat out in his prime for 2 seasons.
Yep.
In his prime. And, I mean, you account for all the statistical categories that LeBron will surpass eventually, but that means he has to play a certain amount of minutes, which he's doing this year. He's saying that he doesn't want to, not play in the game. He doesn't want load management. It's like LeBron has been granted these accessibilities that were not ample at the time when Jordan was in the league. It's just a different generation of basketball. The NBA is just totally different from when Jordan was playing. I mean, the physicality, we just spoke about it. It was just totally different. I mean, when it comes into terms of that, I really don't have anything else to say because we know at the end of the day who the best is of all time, and it's really no argument. You know what I mean? People can say the stats, which LeBron has. He has the stats,
does.
So
the difference is LeBron played 17 years. MJ in his prime played 13. Same with Tom Brady and Joe Montana. And I'll say Tom Brady and Joe Montana are 1A and 1A all day long. Okay? Brady has 6 rings. Montana has 4. Montana hasn't thrown a Super Bowl interception, nor has he lost in the Super Bowl. Brady has. Okay? But by numbers alone, Montana and Brady are 1A and 1A. They revolutionized the game in their own way, in their own era. It's an unfair comparison in any sport. In any sport, it's an unfair comparison. But come on.
Yeah. I feel you on that, Brian.
When you see that tongue hanging out of MJ's, and he's getting ready to do something ignorant to his opponent.
I mean, it's just the heart. I feel like I always look at heart in players, just their approach to the game. How do they come out? And when you have multiple players doing interviews, in their retirement stages and saying that Michael Jordan would sit on his car with a cigar waiting for the other team to get off of their buses coming into the United Center.
Yep.
It's just kind of demising. You're seeing this guy just sit there and say what he's going to do to you.
And he would do it.
He's going to score 40 or 50, and he's doing it. And that's just the type of player he was. It's a different type of level.
It is
different type of level.
It's so funny when you see that MJ, like you said, MJ dressed in a suit with his suspenders on, smoking a cigar, sitting on the hood of his car. Sitting on the hood of his car. I've seen it when he played at Chicago Stadium. Yep, on the hood of his car. I've seen it when he played at Chicago Stadium. Lord knows I've seen it when he played at the United Center, because I had a chance to cover a couple Jordan games at the UC, which is a thrill in and of itself.
I know that was crazy. I know it was.
You talk about the height of the NBA. The height of the NBA occurred in since I've been watching it since 1980. The height of the NBA for me occurred in two stages: Magic and Bird and Jordan. I mean, my first favorite player, and I'll say this till the day I die, my first favorite player is Julius Erving. And I love Dr. J.
Dr. J.
I love Julius Erving. I have a lot of old Sixer games when they played at the Spectrum, and I got a lot of Bulls games when they played at Chicago Stadium. But when Dr. J came in and I loved watching him play, Michael Jordan showed up and took it to another level. I mean, Julius Erving said, I don't see MJ on my top 5, and that's because of the competition Julius Erving played against. That's because of when MJ and Julius Erving faced each other, 85, 86, and 87, Julius Erving was at the end of his career. MJ was just getting started. That's unfair. That's an unfair comparison. It's an unfair comparison. Now, Michael Jordan against Kobe Bryant, however, that was fun.
Man,
that was
so
fun.
May I ask this?
Go ahead.
Where does Kobe Bryant rank amongst your top 15 players? Where is he in that of the greatest of all time?
Don't you ever ask me that? Don't you ever ask me that question again, because I can't place him anywhere. He's in the top. All I will say is he's in the top 15. Where I place him, I can't answer. But is he in my top 15? Yes. Is he in my top 10? Hell yes. Okay. Gotcha. I'm not going to ignore a Michael Jordan clone who had the same kind of killer instinct. Come on, you know that to be true.
Oh,
you know that to be true. You know that to be true.
I grew up. Kobe Bryant is like I said, Rustin. So
yes.
One of my mentors, one of my people I looked up to. It's just it's great today. They inducted him, KG, and Timmy Duncan into the Hall of Fame, which is amazing. Congratulations to them. But it's just it's really kind of sad that you don't even get to see his most anticipated speech, because I know as Kobe did with everything, it would have been the greatest speech ever. One of the best speeches that has ever been spoken at Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame.
It absolutely was.
It just would have been. It's just kind of freakish to think about. But like I said, for him, he was like my Michael Jordan. That's who I saw, playing at these games. Unfortunately, wasn't covering. Wish I was at the time, but you just see this clone, as you just said, like literally every single move, and it's just like, wow. I know people have been playing with him, and then it's like when he passes away, where do you rank him? Like a lot of people now, they want to push him up, but then on the top, it was like top 50 on ESPN. They ranked him. They were so disrespectful to Kobe, and I was just like, what?
Why are you surprised? Like, what? Considering the source, why are you surprised?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
You've heard me speak on this program about my how can I put this? I'll say it honestly. I'm all about kicking real on the show. I hate ESPN as much as I hate the Chicago Cubs.
Oh my. Oh my. That's saying something. You'll hold yourself in the room after 2 days. 2 days, excuse me.
Once upon a time, I wanted to work for that evil 4-letter network. Now I'm putting my own network together. That tell you anything?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I listened to Jamel Hill's podcast on All the Smoking. She gave a lot of insight to where she was coming from on the whole dysfunction with her and ESPN and
That's
everything of that nature. Even with Curry Champion leaving the network, it's just a lot of things that go into it with ESPN. And yes, Stephen A. Smith, who is probably the most prominent African American sports journalist out here. Big ups to Stephen. I definitely learned a lot from watching him and his attributes. I mean, his accolades and stuff. His mannerisms on the television.
And I'll say this about Stephen A. I think ESPN screwed him.
Oh,
I think ESPN screwed him by taking away his radio show. The man can handle it.
Yes.
The man can handle it. You're paying him $8 to $10 million a year. Why are you taking his radio show away? It's his show. Listen, I'm a big fan of Stephen A. Once upon a time, I wasn't. I will happily admit, once upon a time, I wasn't a big fan, but I just couldn't go without listening to his show. I couldn't go without picking up some of the points that he brings out on his show that I didn't bring out on mine. That's learning, folks. It's like they're paying him $8 to $10 million a year. This is the final point we'll discuss, and then I got to have you back on to talk some more sports journalism. I got to have you back on. But think about this. You're paying Stephen A. $8 to $10 million a year. You had, quite frankly, you didn't see the ratings you wanted. You tanked it. You bring the Stephen A. Smith show. You flip it between your main network and ESPN New York 98.7. Still don't see the ratings you want. You cut it. Bring it back. You cut it again. You bring it back. You finally get the ratings you want from the Stephen A. Smith show, which is 2 hours of greatness, and then you cut him. And then you cut the show. You give him an $8 to $10 million salary. He's flying all over the place doing different games and everything because the NBA is his thing. And I really, really appreciate his NBA knowledge. I do. All right.
Oh yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you different. As much smack as I talk about Stephen A., I will never be able to match his knowledge. That's why I study on a daily basis his mannerisms, his show, a couple of others, and I'm not trying to be like him. I'm trying to be better because what you want to do is leave a legacy for those that follow you so they can better it. Okay? And Stephen A. has done that for me. Stephen A. has done that for me. What I don't understand is that bloodthirsty, money-thirsty network paying him $8 to $10 million a year, and they chop his show. They did it the week of the national championship in New Orleans, and I'm like, why? Why is that?
Yeah, I was very confused over that. Very confused. And then they give Jason Fitz, who was pretty good as well. They give him now. He's taking over it. What is it? First take, your take. He's taking over that.
Okay, nothing against Jason Fitz. But that show sucks. If you wanted Stephen A. to be Stephen A., give him his show back. Now, I don't know the ins and outs or who said what or who did what or who made the decision. I just feel Stephen A. is getting screwed by not having those 2 hours. If I didn't have this show and I built it from the ground up and I'm continuing to build it, and thanks to the fans who tune in, if I didn't have this show, especially with the people that are in my life now, people will think something's wrong with me. I'm finally being consistent as we drive this show towards season number 7. And the rest of my programming distributed via Snowman Digital Media. But Snowman in the Morning is my baby. And this is one of the few times I will say it out loud. But I don't know how I could deal with if I didn't have this, especially with what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. And then you talk about the freeness that you have on radio which is different from TV. It's just two different phases of your demeanor. You have to be straight on it live. I mean, you have to do the same with the radio, but you're more free on the radio. You have callers call in. You can literally speak your mind a little bit more on the radio. On First Take, it's just like he can speak, which he always does, in the most amazing way.
He does.
Like you said, you attested to this as well. Just his mannerisms, his verbiage, everything that he does is the best that you can absolutely look at. But taking away his free form, taking away his radio show. And when he announced it, I was like, you have to be kidding me. Like, his radio show was so good, especially like when you spoke on them continuously giving him a show, taking it away, giving him a show, taking it away, you know? And it's just like, he has been consistent with it. And I'm pretty sure the ratings were through the roof with this show because I was watching it, and I know a lot of people who were tuning into this show, especially his radio show, if they couldn't catch the morning first take show. They
either catch the Stephen A. Smith show or the podcast version thereof. They would catch it. They would catch it, and that's what you want. Man, let's stop here because if we keep going, I'm going to run out of tape. I will say that right. I will say that right now. Malik Jackson, tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
You can find me on Twitter at Sports by Malik. Everything is proper. You can find me on Instagram at LivingLife_Leak, LIK. And the Living Life is proper as well. Facebook, Malik Jackson. You can search me. We're friends on Facebook. If you have Mr. Brian Snow, then you can search. You can find me on there. I'm writing for the 3-Point Conversion. I write NHL articles for them. You can go and check that out. And pretty much, I'm about to try to get my own podcast going as well. Try to get something in the loops for the future. But
I want to be on it, right? You know, I want on it, right? You know, I want to be a guest on your podcast. Right?
You already know you're going to be on it. Come on now. Like I said, I just appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, to get to talk some sports through this tough time. But I'm just happy that you're safe and your family is doing well.
Thank you.
And everybody just stay safe during these times.
Please
and keep each other tight.
Please do. Please do. That'll do it for this edition of the Daily BS. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you to my wonderful guests. And I want to thank you, the wonderful fans that have tuned in the region, across the nation, and around the world. Want to sponsor this here program? Drop an email to snowmandigitalmedia@gmail.com. That's snowmandigitalmedia@gmail.com. And also, you can find us on snowmandigitalmedia.com. for a great replay of this show. And don't forget, the podcast version thereof is available immediately after I get the heck out of here, which I'm about to do right now. Have a great afternoon. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope you all are too. Until tomorrow, when I'm back at you again with another edition of the Daily BS, I'm signing off until 22 hours from now. So long, everybody.